and Magog are human beings. But they are human beings who are also given power by Allah. Gog and Magog are people. And they are people who belong to the end time.
It can't be some creature with 5 dozen ears and 10 dozen noses. Where has sense gone? They have to be human beings. Human beings who live on the earth, not underneath the earth, 5 miles underneath the earth. Only a dum-dum will hold that view. Nabi Muhammad ﷺ said about Gog and Magog that Gog is an ummah of Banu Adam and Magog is an ummah of Banu Adam. So human beings.
They are created by the Lord God, and they are endowed with power, irresistible power, and they use that power for a specific purpose. That power is used to oppress. They use power to wage war on the religious way of life. And that's where we are today. Those who are waging war on the religious way of life in the world today, those who are the masters of oppression, are Gog and Magog. They have PhDs in corruption. They corrupt everything that they touch. And they corrupt, for example, the human personality, which is comprised of external sight and internal sight in the human personality. And they corrupt us to such an extent that we have inside of us only darkness, no light. If you have no light inside of you, you cannot see. They corrupt our bedroom life. They corrupt a woman who's supposed to be a woman. Now she's being changed into a man. And a man who is supposed to be a man and fulfill his functions as a man to maintain his family, for example, he now is abandoning that and living more of the feminine way of life. This corruption is taking place everywhere, in sports, in education, in the political system, in business, but it is taking place most dangerous of all, in money. Look at the world today and you'll see those who control power and are using that power to oppress and are using that power to wage a war on the religious way of life. They are Gog and Magog.
He says, Wailul lil Arab min sharrin qad iqtaraba. Woe unto the Arabs because of a great evil. And then he raised his hands like this and made a circle. And he said, today a hole has been made in the barrier built by Zulkarnain.
Khalifa sent an army sometime around the year 50 Hijri. He sent an expedition to try and locate that barrier which was built by Zulkarnain. That expedition returned with the news that they located the barrier, and it was lying in ruins. So if you're waiting for Gog and Magog to come sometime in the future, brother, keep waiting. The barrier is lying in ruins. And companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they themselves gave the testimony that they went and saw with their own eyes. They located the barrier and it was lying in ruins.
In the Quran, Allah refers to Gog and Magog while speaking about a town. And he says the town was destroyed, the people of the town were expelled, And then a ban was placed on them that they could never return to this town to reclaim it as their own until, number one, Gog and Magog are released, and number two, they spread out in all directions, and with their irresistible power, they take control of the world in the world order of Gog and Magog. When that happens, then you'll see these people coming back to the town to reclaim it as their own. Which town is it? The answer is now very well known. It's Jerusalem. So when you see the Jews being brought back, we're talking now about the Israelite Jews, not the European Jews. When you see the Israelite Jews being brought back to the Holy Land from Yemen, from Iraq, from Syria, from Egypt, from Morocco, all over the world, where they were spread out. وَقَطَّعْنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُمَمٍ. And you see them being brought back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own. And you see a state of Israel being restored in the Holy Land. And you see that state of Israel rising to become a ruling state in the world. Then you must know, it's Gog and Magog. It's Gog and Magog who's doing it. What we are living through now is an effort by the Antichrist to prepare himself for that moment when he's going to appear in person. And then from Jerusalem proclaim himself to be the Messiah. But he would not be the Messiah. He would be the false Messiah. But in order for him to convince those who rejected Jesus as the Messiah, to convince them that he is their Messiah, he will have to do a number of things. Number one, he will have to liberate the Holy Land for them. Number two, he'll have to bring them back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own after 2,000 years. Number three, he'll have to restore a state of Israel in the Holy Land and make the proclamation eventually that this is Holy Israel of Solomon and of David. And number four, most dangerous of all, for which he needs Armageddon, is that Israel must become the ruling state in the world, Pax Judaica. So we can now understand that Pax Britannica and Pax Americana were meant to pave the way for Pax Judaica. We are on the verge of that at this time.
So when you refer to Pax Americana and Pax Britannia, is that the control over the monetary system?
It's not just the control over the monetary system. It's that the control over money is part and parcel of the effort required to control the world, to rule the world. The holy state of Israel, of Solomon, Allah's blessing be upon him, was a ruling state. It's going to surprise your viewers now, what I'm going to say. It's also going to surprise the Muslims who have been reading the Quran but not as yet been able to understand. That in the Quran we are told that the Lord God one day caused something to happen to Solomon which caused him distress. وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ سُلَيْمَانَ. And when he saw what, it was probably a vision, he saw someone sitting on his throne. And he realized that this was an impostor who would one day seek to capture holy Israel. And he then made a prayer, which is in the Quran. He prayed to God for a holy Israel, la yambagi li ahad min ba'di, that no one after me will be able, it cannot belong to anyone after me, meaning the Antichrist. So he saw the Antichrist sitting on his throne. But the Quran refers to that person who is sitting on the throne as a being without a soul, a body without a soul. That's the Antichrist. We are now living through that moment in history when the effort to establish a holy state of Israel and declare it to be the state of Israel of Solomon and of David is about to crash.